Okay, so we have been talking about climate change, and you may be asking, why are we talking about all this? We already said that we are increasing greenhouse gases, and that makes the weather and the climate very warm, and it will begin to have other effects. We said glaciers can melt, and if glacier water flows into the ocean, the sea level can rise, and when sea level is higher, coastal cities can go underwater and islands can disappear, and so on and so forth. So it's not just the slow changes. Glacier melting is a slow process, and sea level rise can be a slow process. But when a storm comes, let's say a cyclone or a typhoon or a hurricane comes, then it can bring more water into the city or the coastal places where people live. And this means that you have two combinations of things. Cyclone is a very fast thing, typhoon is a very fast thing. It comes in a few days and goes away hopefully in a few days, can do a lot of damage. So these are called extreme weathers or severe weather. Why are we talking about it? Because you have to now put together everything you learned. We said with global warming, which is caused by us burning fossil fuels and increasing the greenhouse gases, we are trapping more energy, and the energy can go into evaporating water from the oceans and land, and can melt glaciers and raise sea levels and so on. Now, can you think that the warm atmosphere will hold more water? You can think, is it drier in the winter, let's say, where you are, or is it drier in the summer? You may have an intuition by now, even though you are very young, that summer temperatures are warmer and typically more humid, okay, compared to winter, because compared to summer, some places can be drier than other places because it depends on where you are. On the west coast of the US or in the middle of India, in the summer weather can be drier, but if you're on the coast, in the east coast in the US, and let's say in Mumbai or west coast of India, or even the east coast of India, weather can be very humid during our summer. So warm air holds more moisture. It's a thirsty atmosphere. When it gets warm, it wants to take up more water vapor. And then you can imagine, if water vapor is there, and then air can rise and condense and produce clouds and rainfall. But not just rainfall, it can also produce thunderstorms which come flying around with winds and lightning and thunder, and that's why they're called thunderstorms, and it can be scary, right? So these are severe weather. Then the key question is, if we increase greenhouse gases, we increase water vapor in the atmosphere along with the temperature, will we make the weather more extreme? Will there be more heavy rain or thunderstorms? Will there be more cyclones, and so on and so forth, right? So let's read this here and look at some figures of extreme weather. As the temperature goes up, there are more frequent events of extreme weather. This is just stating it, but I just tried to give you a background on why there could be more extreme weather with warm temperatures. You can do this experiment at home, again with adult supervision. If you take a sponge, let's say you soak it up with water, okay, because warm atmosphere is holding more water vapor, so think of it as a sponge which is collecting more water. Now you push on the sponge somewhere, so you have, let's say, you put it on a mesh so that when you push, water can drop out. So if you take a sponge, fill it with water and push somewhere, do you think the sponge will drizzle down the water, or will it pour somewhere, either where you push or somewhere else? You try it, but you can imagine that it's very likely that it will not drizzle down, that it will pour somewhere. So if you fill up the atmosphere with water vapor, it will be like a sponge that is soaked in water and tends to pour a lot of water somewhere. So if you're in a rainy place like Mumbai, or in a place that only gets a little bit of rain but during this monsoon, like Hyderabad or Bengaluru or somewhere in the middle west of US or in Europe somewhere, you may think sometimes it rains very heavily, so heavily that you cannot even see, and if you're in a car with your parents, they may even stop on the side of the road because it's pouring so heavily that you cannot even see. That's what we call severe weather or extreme weather. In other words, rain is normal, but it pours like cats and dogs and very heavy, then that is extreme rain. And the question is, increasing greenhouse gases, will it make more heavy rain events, more heat waves, and so on, right? So air has become warmer. Warm air holds more water than cold air. It contains more water molecules. It's damper, more humid, and more likely to turn into vapor in the atmosphere. There's more water in the atmosphere, so when it rains, it can rain a lot. In fact, there is better chance that it will pour, which means lots of rain will come down in a short time. What can happen? Floods can be caused, and houses can get flooded, and cars may get stuck, and so on and so forth. And if we look at the last 50-60 years, where we have been looking at the Keeling curve and saying CO2 is going up and greenhouse gases are going up and temperatures are going up, we also have data that shows that in many places floods have become more common, like Pakistan, in Asia. It is getting flooded every year now since 2010. That's about 13 years of floods, 14 years of floods, right? The United States has seen this firsthand. The author Gail Herman is from the United States, so she's talking about this. Compared to 50, I hope it's Gail Herman. Anyway, I hope I didn't mess up the author's name. Compared to 50 years ago, some areas have gotten 67% more rainfall during the heaviest storms. So there is a stormy season, right? So you have winter, you have spring, you have summer and fall, and in India we have a monsoon season. A place like US doesn't have necessarily a rainy season, but it gets more rain as it transitions, let's say, from winter to summer. But now it's not raining like normal. It somehow feels like it's becoming heavier rain. So rain comes at the right time, but it is pouring instead of just falling gently and nicely. So it can make severe damage in many ways, right? So there is a 67% more rainfall during the heaviest storms. So storms may occur at the right time of the season, but they bring much more rain because there is much more water vapor in the atmosphere, which is warmer. Heavy rains can destroy crops and homes. So if you are living in the Midwest or somewhere in rural India where there are a lot of agricultural land, heavy rain can just destroy the crops and or even destroy homes. When these rains hit the mountains, they can cause landslides and mudslides, which means things that are standing on the slope, it may be just trees or people have built houses and so on, roads, and heavy rain can just begin to wash down all that from the slopes, right? Rivers can flood and become very large and come into town. Bridges can collapse and people may die. Just now, few days ago, we had a heat wave in Delhi and some 40, 50, 60 people died because of the heat wave, right? This is why we worry about extreme weather or severe weather. Two things: extreme weather has always happened, as we said. Now the question is, Is it happening more often because we are increasing greenhouse gases and warming the atmosphere? And evidence says that in many places it is happening more often. With a warming planet, events like these are expected to happen even more, which means if we continue to increase our emissions and put all those greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, temperature will keep on getting warmer, and more water vapor will get into the atmosphere, and we'll get more extreme weather, not only in the summer, even in winter. Right? When you are moving energy from the low latitudes to high latitudes, remember the energy balance. The winds are involved, and the winds can change not only in the summer but also in the winter, and the water vapor content can change not only in the summer but also in the winter. And in the winter, when you get storms, you can get snowstorms, ice storms, and even in warm places you can get hail and not just rain. So hail is just frozen water that's falling down, sometimes as small pebbles, and now there is some big ones falling. So even in a warm climate like the monsoon, you can get hail. Why? Because you know that the temperature cools down as you go up into the atmosphere from the surface till the tropopause. Remember, troposphere gets colder and then stratosphere gets warmer. So when you have cold air above, you can freeze the water vapor that's there, and not just rain, but you can drop ice particles or ice balls, ice pebbles, and so on, which we call hail. Okay, so this is very descriptive, but this is good for depending on how old you are. If you're old enough to follow up, you can follow up with lots of information online in books, and there are in fact books on extreme weather for kids, but I could not buy it on Amazon in India because I wanted the Kindle version or a electronic book, ebook, and they would not sell it to me in India. So you tell Jeff Bezos he needs to sell these in India as well, so that I can teach you guys. Okay, so we'll come back and look at some nice images from the National Geographic about extreme weather, and I have their permission to use it. I signed an agreement that I know how to use them. And by the way, the camera here has too much distance between my head and the frame, and this is not considered a good idea, so it has to be adjusted like this and made to reduce the distance here. Okay, I don't know what is the best distance, but let's say I leave it like this, but when I lean it will go out, so I have to be careful. Okay, these are technical details. I just thought I'll include them here. So children, let's see you in the next I'll see you in the next podcast. Let's meet in the next podcast looking at some images of extreme weather from different places. Okay, see you.